Hey guys, so today I have another subscriber request video all about hair done with color pencil. I've basically been doing just subscriber request videos since December. It's awesome. I love the polite subscriber requests. Yeah, right now the queue is about 15 videos deep. Like I did a spreadsheet and everything because I love Excel spreadsheets. That being said, feel free to continue to make requests. Just keep in mind that I always go in the order of the date requested. And so if you don't see yours for a while, I'm just going in the order and there's just a lot of people ahead of you. Some people are lucking out, like they'll request things that have already been in the queue for a while. So, some people will be like, oh, I got mine early. And it's like, hey, Merry Christmas. But hopefully, in the meantime, you'll keep watching other videos and find them helpful. Just one more little note before we get started on the tutorial. I just want to say thank you to everyone for all the kind words left here and on my Instagram and other social media. It's really hard to have a shitty day when you guys are so nice to me. And I've been really tired lately. School's kind of crazy and, I got some other projects and stuff, obviously working on the book. But I love teaching and I love when people say, hey, you know what you said to me was really helpful and it just makes my day. And so thank you for all the compliments. And just keep practicing and keep doing the work, All right, enough of the gushy, emotional stuff that I'm not really great at. Color pencils. So this video is going to focus on hair renderings, but I will introduce to you guys a few color pencil techniques that will work well for things that are not hair. Number one, let's talk about our materials. So today I have a bunch of color pencils in a lot of kind of more natural hair colors. The two brands of color pencils that I use the most often are Faber-Castell Polychromos and the Prismacolor Premier. The Prismacolor Premier pencils, they are kind of mid-range price-wise and, reasonably priced. And their leads are really soft and creamy and they blend well and their colors are quite vibrant. And I think excellent for their price bracket. The drawback to these is because the lead is so soft, they snap quite easily. And so, you have to be careful not to drop these on the floor. And you have to be careful that you don't sharpen them too aggressively. Faber-Castell has a couple of different lines. They have a Classics line and they have a Polychromos line, and I like the Polychromos line. It is a little bit more expensive, but the color payout is nice. The blendability is really nice. It is a superior pencil in my opinion. Of course, that's just opinion. The lead doesn't break as easily. So it's a sturdier pencil. It ends up lasting longer because I don't have to sharpen them over and over and over again because the lead broke, right? And I go over color pencils more in depth in my Intro to Color Pencils video, and I'll drop that link in the info box. When I am working with dry media like color pencil without marker, without paint, I like working on Bristol. Bristol is a nice sturdy paper. It's got a smooth surface, not a lot of tooth, so that you won't have a bumpy texture interfering with any sort of color or pencil blending. I always like to cover other work so that, my hand is not smearing all this pencil when I'm working on the left side. So the thing about color pencil, and this can be a good thing or a bad thing depending on who you are, is that it's a slow medium. Okay? You have to take longer to build up your color with color pencil. And for people who are used to marker or need to work really quickly, or they're doing a lot of rough gesture and they need a lot of color payout like immediately, color pencil is not going to be ideal. For someone who's still trying to work on creating shapes and shading and need more control in the beginning, this is an excellent learning tool. For the most part, I use it because I love the dry texture that I can achieve with a lot of different texture renderings, like with fur and fuzzy knits. So as some of you may know, I have a whole series of hair videos, and the first one goes over the basics of hair rendering for any media and any hairstyle. The basics are these. Number one, hair should be treated as a shape and not 500 million strands. You're not going to sit there and draw all the strands, but you're going to think of hair as this bob shape or this long wavy shape. Number two, render in the direction that the hair is going, growing, or blowing, okay? You don't want to have a bob like this and then color it in horizontally. You'll ruin the effect. Use the brush strokes or the pencil strokes of whatever medium you're using to help illustrate the hair texture. Number three, hair is darkest at the roots, at the tips, and inside around your face and neck where hair is in shadow. Also, hair is darkest when it's wavy and it's going away from the light. So if my light source is over here, then as it goes out, it catches the light, and as it recedes, it gets the shadow. Number four, highlights. Highlights appear as hair curves towards the light. Highlights appear across hair, not along hair. So if my hair is going in this direction, then my highlight will sit across the width of my bangs. So here's my hair, front view face, a short bob with bangs. And you're going to render in the direction of the hair. My light source is over here, so I'm going to have a highlight over here. I'm going to have another highlight over here. And then I'm going to have a highlight across the bangs. I like to start light and build slowly. Anytime I use a specific medium, I really try to exploit the advantages of that particular medium. And the beauty of color pencil for hair is that it's got kind of a fuzzy, hairy texture to begin with. Also, it's a slow medium, so I can build slowly. I don't know, coloring with color pencil is really zen and fun. Curving across her forehead. So I'm leaving those highlight shapes, right? And now I know some areas need to be a little bit darker, so I'm just going to keep going, add more color. I always like to add a couple of loose strands because I really don't like helmet hair. But, that's my own personal preference. And then I'm going to take a black and I'm just going to add just a few strands to kind of emphasize so it doesn't look too much like a block of brown. Emphasize the texture. And there you go. Hair as a shape, the bob shape, rendering in the direction the hair is going. So down, down, slightly rounded around the face. Over the forehead, highlights as it curves towards the light, and the bangs. Shadows at the tips, tips. Shadows at the roots. Color pencil is also great if you want to do a hairstyle where there's a lot of colors. Like, there's some people who deliberately do a lot of either ombre effects or they, put in a lot of highlights and lowlights so that it's like a lot of different shades of honey brown. And color pencil is a really great way to show that off. So I'm going to do this hair and I'm going to just have a lot of fun bleached bits. So I'm going to start with my middle color. And again, I drew my hair in the basic wavy shape that I want. And I'm going to, my light source is over here. So I'm going to have a highlight here. And then as hair curves towards the light. I'm going to have another highlight here and here and here, here. I'm going to apply the color where there's no highlight. And just, slowly build the color, rendering in the direction hair is going. And then I'm going to take a few strands and just pull them all the way through. You don't want your highlights to just look like a block of white, okay? Because anytime you do highlights and shadows, you have to follow the texture of what it's highlighting and shadowing, right? And so smooth surfaces like glass, satin, they're going to have smooth, flat highlights. And anytime you have anything textured like hair, you're going to have textured highlights. And then I'm going to take my darkest color and put in my darkest areas. I love working with color pencil for hair because then you can give her some proper bedhead, that sexy tousled look. And, in here, in the shadow behind her head is where your hair would be the darkest. I'm going to put in some of this little platinum bits. And then I'm going to take my 2B pencil and I'm just going to run a few strands through, all the way through. So color pencil is really great when you want to have things that are more subtle and have more varieties of hair color running through the same style. I really love color pencil to create hairstyles that are like really messed up. There's like just little strands everywhere. And that's really harder to get like a subtle, messed up, it's sticking everywhere look with marker. Now, let's say there's your light source. And you can just get so much looser and messier with color pencil than you can with marker. But again, I'm keeping the general shape of this hairstyle and rendering in the direction the hair would go and making sure that the roots are still darkest and the tips, and you're creating that big highlight across this curve of her head. Yeah, these Prismacolors, the color payout is really nice. And it's kind of worth putting up with some breakage issues, But yeah, you can't really get this, the subtle gradients with marker. And you can do, all the hairstyles that I demoed in my hair videos with marker, like you can do all those things with color pencil, but why would you use one medium to try to mimic another medium perfectly? Like you might as well use, all the best things about a color pencil to create a color pencil unique look, right? Then I'm going to just add this black streak in here because I decided. I also love doing afros and super curly hairstyles with color pencil. Again, I have the basic hair shape in here, and I am just putting in these individual curls all over. So like I was using the markers to kind of stamp out the afro shape before, I'm taking this and I'm stamping in clumps of curls. Go in, add some curls. gonna fill in some of these white spaces. And remember how hair is denser the closer it is to the head. So I'm going to make sure that, I don't really have open spaces around the head so much. And then I can get looser as the fro kind of grows out. Oh, I like that. When you're doing facial hair like beards and mustaches, just keep in mind that you need to keep your pencil strokes short because your beard hairs are short. So even if this is a big space, you might be tempted to do the long strokes across the beard, but then it'll just look like he just grew long hair from the top. And oh God, that just sounds so gross. No, don't do that. So remember, render in the direction hair grows and use your pencil strokes to your advantage to create the texture. So you're going to use your little short pencil strokes to create the texture of the beard, not try to just fill in the space with long strokes just because that's faster. Okay? Keep things nice and short so you can get the texture that you need. Beards don't really have highlights because the hair texture of beards is coarser, and then of course each individual hair is shorter, so it doesn't really catch big highlights. And so you're not going to have, this kind of broad highlight across your beard. Again, it's going to look like he has like a weird wig on his face. Stop making me create these visuals in my mind. Gross. Now, if you're trying to achieve a look with color pencils where the areas are more filled in, like you don't see a lot of these white gaps, okay, I have two techniques I want to show you. The first technique I'm going to show you is called burnishing. And burnishing is when you take a color pencil and you go over your drawing and you're like pushing the color pencil into the grooves of your paper so that there are no white spots left. Like when you look at something like this, you know that there are all these little microscopic white spaces in between the color pencil. And when you take your color pencil and you really push it in, you end up getting these solid blocks of color. Okay? And the nice thing about color pencil is you can make things subtle so that you can create these gradients, just push up. Don't do this sort of thing. It's really easy to get this effect when you use a smooth paper like Bristol. When you have rough paper like this, you're going to see really the texture of the paper. And you're going to have to go in and really push into it to get the solid blocks of color. But again, you want to push up so that you have the dark at the bottom and then kind of tapers to the softer look at the top. You don't want to have a block of dark and then light on the top. You're losing your hair effect this way. So just go in there in the darkest areas and push that pencil color down now that you've figured out where you want your darkest hair, right? And you can see the difference between that and that. Okay. Another way that you can create smoother areas of filled in color is to use rubbing alcohol. This is isopropyl alcohol, rubbing alcohol, you know, the stuff you get for $1 at any drugstore, with a Q-tip. Now, these are the super skinny Q-tips that I get at Muji. I really like the really skinny ones because I can get more control, but you can use regular Q-tips. So here's some rubbing alcohol in the cap. I'm gonna dip my Q-tip in here, and you're gonna add and kind of smudge the color pencil. And you can smudge more the more alcohol you add. You know how I love the watercolor pencils because I can create like wet dry looks using, you know, little bits of water sprinkled on top? This is like that. By controlling the amount of alcohol that I add to my color pencil, I can create smudgy, softer looks. Now remember, every time you switch colors, you need to switch to a clean nib. Maybe if you want it more dense and black in the center. You see how it's just softly smudging that? It's not deeply burnishing like I did here, but it is just softly smudging that charcoal or that color pencil around. Ah, that's my favorite little trick. So if you are doing all of your hair in color pencils, you know, the techniques that I showed with the markers are easily translatable. So if you're looking for how to do braids with color pencil, okay, go watch the video on braided hair, and those techniques can just be transferred to color pencil. And then you can try the burnishing, you can try the rubbing alcohol technique to create smudgier, you know, more solid color looks. And that's it. Come at me with your questions. You know, I'll drop you some hopefully helpful links in the info box. And if your question isn't answered there, you know, you can always drop me a comment. That's it. I will see you next time. Go practice. Get off the internet and go practice.